Welcome back, this is News Extra. Now tonight we're taking a look at the Impact Road Safety campaign that's now got started in Norfolk, and its aim to deliver that message especially to younger drivers. And what better way to do that than to get one of their own to deliver that message. Tom's 18 and was involved in a serious crash in North Norfolk during the summer. He was at City College with the car he crashed in to pass on his message last week. Let's hear the story of that crash through his eyes and those of a paramedic who was at the scene.
As I came around a bend, one I've driven so many times, knew it like the back of my hand. It was wet, it was sticky, damp, and I was probably going a bit too fast for the conditions. I wasn't speeding, but still too fast for the conditions, and the back of my car came out, and then I tried to correct the swerve and it went the opposite way, and I flew off the road and hit a tree 2 metres in the air, and then slammed into the ground and bounced around a few more trees before coming to a stop. And once I stopped, another tree fell on top of the car.
The scene I found was Thomas's car, buried well into the trees, well off the road. The fire and rescue service personnel were trying to cut him out of the car, while the paramedic ambulance crew had him monitored and were just looking after him while they were doing that.
I was awake for all of it, and I remember just thinking I can't do anything now. So I remember I held my head and got my feet out the way of the pedals in case, and to a certain extent it probably did limit the injuries I got to my face, because I got them all down here, but the rest of my face side, and I got a few on the back of my hand, but I think because I held my head it really helped on that.
He was a little bit drowsy, he got some obvious head and face injury, and he'd got kind of obvious arm and chest injury as well, so he was in a bad way, bless him.
I never really understood how bad it was at the time. I remember looking around and seeing my windscreen all smashed and just thinking, it's not too good, and I feel the blood dripping down my face, but again I didn't think it was much of an issue, and I just rang 999 and asked for the police and said I think I've had an accident. I wasn't too sure at the time. I broke my shoulder blade in 4 places, I suffered a triple break in my cheekbone, I dislocated my collarbone, broke my acromion, I punctured my lung and that collapsed. Obviously with the facial wounds, I had 26 stitches in that side of my face and 1 in there, so I got quite a few.
Yeah, I think we all have degrees of luck, but yeah, his car had quite literally taken off from the road and landed down an embankment quite away from the road, and he'd taken out probably half a dozen little trees on the way. His car was actually on its wheels, which was fortunate, I guess. But yeah, small car, tall person, and it folded around him.
So a young man very lucky to be alive. So that's what happened that night. But what impact does it have on a family? Well, his family were away on holiday when they got the call in the middle of the night.
Well, they were on holiday at the time. They were down in Somerset. And they were in the motorhome down there. I was supposed to be joining them a couple of days later, and so they found out about 1:30 on the Sunday morning. So when they reached me at 4 o'clock on the Sunday, I happened to be asleep, so I kind of looked a bit dead when they turned up. But it was kind of how it's all unfolded, and we started to find out the injuries I've had, and it put a lot of pressure on them, because they came and saw me every day in hospital, and they didn't like having to see me in that situation. So
he was on the ward, lying there very forlorn, face covered in sort of blood and injuries and things like that, and very vulnerable. And you think, yeah, that's my boy, what can I do about that? You know, and it's, as a parent, you just, it's very hard to handle, because he's lying there helpless. You realise that he is not too well at all, and you just hope that things will move forward. When you leave the ward and sort of walking with my wife, and you just think, how's this all going to turn out? Because we didn't know. He was very ill. He was very ill.
I saw the pain that it took my family through and the injuries that I suffered, and I don't want anyone else's family and friends to have to go through that, and the drain on the resources that it took with the 3 fire engines and the ambulance and the police cars, and then my time in hospital. I don't want anyone else to be having that drain on the local resources.
How are we going to deal with this if this doesn't work out? How would you deal with it? And I was sort of trying to put a plan in my mind of how I would deal with it, and I couldn't. It was impossible. I didn't know what was going to happen.
So where could this new campaign succeed, where others before it may have failed? Well, the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office have thrown their weight behind this, taking the message out to young people in the coming weeks all across the county. They're also getting young people to sign special pledge cards about their driving.
I know from when I was at school in sixth form and that, it's really easy, like a policeman comes in and you shut off. You don't necessarily listen because they're not your age group, but these are my peers, I'll know some of these people and I want them not to have to go through what I went through. So.
We have amongst us an ambassador for youth road safety in Tom Simmons. He's the hero of the hour. He is here with his car. He was obliging all the rules of the Fatal Four. He was driving within appropriate speed, or within the speed limit, but he wasn't driving appropriate to the road conditions. It was pouring with rain. He nearly lost his life. His voice can be much more powerful than a man in a suit. We've got the real man here. That's why I'm calling him the ambassador for road safety. Thomas has been there, has done that. If you're 18 years old, wouldn't you rather hear from an 18-year-old than, I'm not going to acknowledge my age, but someone of my age? He's got the voice. He's the man, as far as I'm concerned, with the young people.
It was something that Thomas started himself. He said to me one morning, Dad, can you contact the EDP because I want other people to find out, youngsters, about the driving, etc. He said, I know I wasn't speeding. I know I wasn't cornering too fast. He's got a black box on his car, the insurance black box, brilliant. And it proved that point. But he said, I'm a decent driver, but I'm inexperienced. And I fell foul of that inexperience. I want other youngsters to learn so they don't get in that situation. And to look at the audience of youngsters, and they took notice. And that's important. So out of something bad, really bad, a lot of good has the potential to come out of it.
So Tom was one of the lucky ones, and now he's passing on that safety message. And when we say lucky, it was all a case of just a couple of millimetres.
Definitely been very lucky. We found out after my accident that when I broke one of my ribs, the first rib underneath it is one of the main arteries, and I missed that by about 2 millimetres. So, to all intents and purposes, I'm 2 millimetres from death. So, yeah, I feel very lucky and just grateful for everything I've got now. 299
serious road accidents involving serious injury or death on our roads in Norfolk this year, identical to last year. But it's not right. First of all, we must get those numbers down, and to think that we're losing so many young lives, I'm just not prepared to tolerate that.
At that stage, we all think we're kind of immortal. We can all take a few risks, whether it's driving too quickly or driving when we really shouldn't due to the weather conditions. And yeah, it's to get the point across that, yeah, we're not all immortal, and yeah, just to take a little bit more care.
It makes me realise just how fortunate Thomas was to get out of that. And it makes you realise that your life is on a thread, and in seconds it can change. I'm very grateful to the response of the emergency services. I think what stands out most of all is that Thomas said to me when he had the accident, one of the firefighters spent an age holding his head. Gosh. That firefighter, his normal job is a postman. That says it all.
So a lucky driver, a very grateful family, and a campaign to try and stop it happening to other young drivers across our county. As ever, you can always join the conversation on Twitter. We are at Mustard TV. The hashtag is News Extra. Tomorrow night at the same time, I'll be back with a special edition of Business Extra, looking at the Chancellor's autumn statement and picking out exactly what it means for us here in Norfolk. Until then, thanks for joining us. Have a very good night.